Call to order the Torrington Board of Education regular meeting for Wednesday, October 21st at 6 o'clock. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ms. Capabianca. Here. Mr. Hinman. Here. Mrs. Horner here. Mr. Kisco.
Here.
Mr. Knight.
Here.
Mr. Lemoyne.
Here.
Mr. Nardi.
Here.
Ms. Richardson. Here. Mr. Tebow.
Here.
Mr. Traub.
Here.
Mayor Carbone. Not here. Mr. Becerra.
He's here, he just stepped out.
Mr. Campolita.
Here.
Ms. LaChance.
Here.
Ms. Lebowski. Mr. Potter. Ms. Reitman. Thank you.
School community session. The board invites members of the community to speak on topics to be addressed in the agenda or on other topics of interest. Individuals wishing to make comments are requested to fill out the speaker sign-up sheet, including your name and address, which must be stated at the beginning of your comment. The board will not allow comments regarding specific staff members or personal grievances. Courtesy is expected in this limited public forum. The participation time will be limited to 3 minutes per person and 10 minutes overall to guarantee an efficient operation of the entire meeting. We have one, Lisa Miller, one sign. Welcome.
Do I stand right here?
You can sit, you can stand, whatever you're comfortable with.
Well, good evening, board. My name is Lisa Miller, and I'm from 215 Highland Avenue in Torrington, Connecticut. I'll keep my remarks short and to the point. I was formerly employed as a paraprofessional at Torrington High School. The reason I'm speaking to you tonight is because I believe one or more of our schools in our district are gravely out of compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. I have witnessed firsthand some students that are in need of support as specified in their IEPs, and they have none. I take very seriously the needs of all students, including those that need extra support. I have a brother and a niece who have learning disabilities, and both have successfully completed high school due to the extra support that they've had. I'm happy to see many positive changes over the years within our district. And I bring this up because I care deeply about our students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. We move on to approval of the agenda. We have 2 items that need to be, I think Mr. Knight would like to make a motion.
Yes, I move to add to this evening's agenda, discussion and possible action of reinstating the meetings being broadcast on TV.
Would you also like to add to your amendment of the agenda, an agenda item 5E in the action items for the approval of the ED 099 form?
Yes.
Excellent.
I will second those.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, so 4H will be discussion of televised meetings. And 5E will be the ED 099, and 5F will be action item for meetings being televised. Okay, thank you. Informational sharing session. Superintendent's report.
Okay. First thing I wanted to present was the special events, some of the special events that we've had. And the first one is a really neat event that I went to at East School, the Harvest Celebration. Miss Ferguson from East School has something she wants to show the board. So you can see what this was. This is an event that basically helps our students to understand how things go from the farm to the table and was a very interactive and very much in keeping with the experiential learning that we're trying to bring to our kids.
Thank you for that introduction, Mrs. Reitman. I want to introduce Angela Calabrese. She's here as my computer angel because if I didn't bring her, I'm certain that I would never get this to play. And I'm not ashamed to admit that because I'm old enough that I can say that. You've heard me here many times over the past couple of years gushing about our garden, and I appreciate your indulgence, but this year has been really, really special. A few years ago, as you probably know, we partnered up with Fit Together, and then we were very fortunate to receive a nice garden grant, which allowed us to really, really expand our garden. So this year, with tremendous community partnership and support, and the money that we got from the garden grant, we were able to build raised beds for the garden, which yielded us a really nice harvest this year. We had all kinds of vegetables and herbs. And one of our teachers, Courtney Quigley, was kind of spearheading this effort. And she set it all up on the computer so that families could sign up online to take care of the garden over the summer. So families took weeks over the summer to come in and water and harvest. And the deal was you were able to take home whatever was ready for picking. We had a lot of green beans, so lots of families went home with green beans over the summer. And then many of our staff members were there also because it was such a beautiful space. Our art teacher, ONG actually donated cinder blocks for us to build the beds out of, and we had some other local merchants who donated ceramic tiles. So as part of art class, the kids actually decorated the exterior of the blocks, and so it's a really pretty space. So people would be inclined to just come and sit there and water, and everybody really wanted to have a part of this over the summer. So as the staff would come in, they would pick and freeze and that kind of thing, with the notion that sometime this fall we would have a harvest celebration at our school, and we would all sit down at the table and enjoy a meal together, which was kind of a dream that we all shared. So we were able to do that. When we came back to school in September, we finished picking and storing and doing what we needed to do, preparing, and then we were also, through the grant, able to get a local chef. Her name is Ann Gallagher. She joined us at school all day on October 7th, and she worked with our kids at every grade level to prepare the food for the following day, which was the day of our celebration. So we had the kids scrubbing vegetables and chopping vegetables and peeling potatoes and stirring soup, and thanks to a lot of work on the part of some of the people sitting here, we were actually able to bring the kids into the kitchen, which, believe it or not, was taboo, but we were able to get over that hurdle. So it was a really exciting time. The children wrote the menu. We made pizza with pesto because we had a bumper crop of basil. We had corn sage muffins, and the sage was from our garden. So every item on the menu featured something from our garden. We had salsa, and we had a beautiful, beautiful vegetable soup. So everyone, applesauce, everyone was able to sample a little bit of everything. We turned our gymnasium on the 8th into really a restaurant. St. Peter's Church was very generous, and they loaned us enough tables and chairs so that we were able to seat every single person in our school and our guests. Linda was there, Mayor Carbone came. I wish that I understand you guys work and you couldn't be there, but I wish you could have been because you would have loved it. It was just a really special event. So I'm not going to say anymore. Angela has put together a really nice little slide presentation, and I think that it'll give you a nice feel for what we were able to do. There are not pictures of the actual event in here because we didn't have time to add those, so stay tuned because I'll be back.
add too is that when you see the footage from the actual event, you'll see that my favorite part was the tours, the garden tours given by the students, and this one little tiny blonde girl who was just the cutest thing, who was explaining every single thing that happened, and she talked about the fact that animals were invading the garden, and so Lois came in and built them a fence, and the kids did performances, they sang all kinds of related songs to growing and planting, and the lunch was great. And I meant to actually steal one of the placemats from my office, and I forgot.
Oh, I think we probably
So if you have one, I would love to.
I would be happy to share, and
I had fully intended to steal one on my way out, but I got distracted by the little blonde girl.
Yeah, they did everything, you know, I've never seen kids come together with such, not just enthusiasm, but respect for each other, setting the table. I mean, you can imagine when you're setting a table for 500 people, it requires a lot of legwork. And the fifth graders, they were so excited, and they were the servers, and we had to have every plate served before people sat. They just loved it, you know. We had the big, tall racks of, you know, the trays go on, and they just, their aprons, and they felt just so important about it. And the food really was really good, actually. So, thank you.
And also, I rode around up there several times, and I just saw young people sitting there reading a book.
Yeah.
Right next to the garden, because it was just so beautiful.
Thanks. And you know what, that's our next project for next year. We want to create an outdoor classroom space right next to the garden, so that's what we're working on. And the bunnies that you saw in the lettuce, one of our first grade teachers had a contact somewhere, right? And so someone actually came and moved the rabbits and had nursed them and made sure that they got off on a good start. So anyway, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we also had the Forbes Flyers, thanks to Janice Harrington, who could not be at the event, but arranged for her assistant coaches, Lori Young and Kim Wakita, I believe I'm saying that right, and Kristen Fern, who volunteers for time with the Forbes Flyers, who came out and had the Forbes Flyers participate and do a demonstration as part of the 275th anniversary celebration. It was very cold, and they did very well. I'm going to add a personal note here, as I brought my grandchildren with me, and my grandson was very annoyed because some of the adults who were watching criticized the young people for messing up. And he contained himself for the entire time, but he wanted to tell them that if they thought they could do better, they should go out there. And he didn't, but the kids were awesome, and the fact that sometimes it was so cold and they did make mistakes, but the presence that they had to be able to just, they either just picked up their routine where they needed to pick it up, or they simply bowed and went on to the next thing. They were a wonderful representation, and I really appreciate that. And I also want to put a plug in. We have a contingent marching with Macy's again this year, and they are trying to raise funds so that they can do their practicing and then they can get their trip to Macy's. So I'm going to put something out into the school community because we really want to support getting these young people to do that. So that was another really cool event. Tonight we are hosting the secondary school fair. We did that today at TMS, where 8th graders get to see everything that Torrington High School has to offer, as well as Wamogo, Walker Tech, and some of the other schools in the area, the magnet schools. And I know that he may be a bit biased, but Mr. Burnett tells me we did some serious showing up of the competition this year, that we had a lot of really great things going on, and that we're doing a similar thing tonight. Apparently the hit was the drone, which I hear is now in the news. I listen to NPR. Drones are very much in the news, and ROTC has added drones into their curriculum for one of their classes for ROTC. So they brought their drone to TMS, and that was a big hit. So we're happy to do that. We also are happy to report that there will be an 8th grade shadow coming up, where we will, for the first time, get all of the 8th graders into Torrington High School early on. They'll be going next month. All teams are going, one team at a time, so it'll be 90 students for 2 hours in the morning. They will shadow 9th graders for 2 periods, one standard academic period and one elective period. There will then be a Q&A session with the administrators and the guidance counselors before they go back, and we will return them to TMS for lunch, so that they're only out of TMS for 2 hours, but it's the first time we've been able to get all of the 8th graders to the high school earlier than May. So we're hoping that that's going to have some really good benefits for us, getting our students there and exposed to what we have to offer early. So that's it for special events. Also, standardized testing. I'm surprised you're here.
Good timing. I know, I got to see the bunnies too, so that was good. For the standardized testing, we took the SBAC obviously last year. We are hoping that by the first week of November, the test scores will get out to parents. In addition, I will be going around to do some evenings for parents just to explain what SBAC is all about and our subsequent testing that we did this year, which was the MAP testing, which is from the NWEA company, and they're a nonprofit organization. It does mimic some of the SBAC type format, but what we're hoping to do is really see student growth over time. So this year we'll be giving that test twice a year to students in 2nd grade through 12th grade, through 10th grade, and then for kindergarten we will be giving it twice, but we will be starting in January this for kinder and actually for 1st grade as well. But as I said, I will be doing in the month of November just information nights on standardized testing, what this looks like, what this really means, how this aligns to our curriculum, and the information that it will be giving us. So I think that will help parents and community members certainly are welcome as well, and those will be held at the schools.
And also, Susan did focus the PD for this past month on using the reports to be able to get access to the reports, because the teachers are able to see them now, so they will be able to start discussing the MAP testing and the results and what it means and how to interpret it with parents at the conferences in November. So we've also done that. And I do want to say that getting the testing done was a little bit of we had some technological glitches, but we got them fixed in large part to a lot of effort on Sarah Coolidge and Mark Caldwell, who helped us to get things done in the elementary schools, so we didn't have little people crying over testing. So we got it done, and we're very happy that we have those results, and then we'll be able to see how we perform from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, and we'll have those results very quickly. So that's good information for us to have. The TVAL update, we did send it, our updated plan to the state. It came back with a couple of very minor adjustments that we are going to be finishing up. The TEA has agreed to extend the deadline for setting goals to November 15th so that we have sufficient time to have everybody understand the changes in the evaluation. And we're moving on track for that, so we're in good shape. That's right.
I just wanted to acknowledge the teacher leaders who took initiative on that. He's been very supportive of this process, really having a hand working with administration. And I think it's a more meaningful document that we submitted this year, so I think it'll be very positive. We'll continue to work on that with the committee throughout the year as well. That's exciting.
Staffing reports, Ann and Joe. Who wants to go?
Yes, I will. Basically, this is the first staffing report of the year. I am very pleased to say that for the first time since we've been getting the staffing reports, at no point in the month of September did our teachers exceed the 10% absentee rate on any given day. So I commend the teachers for making sure that more of their staff are in the buildings on a regular basis. The one thing you will notice in the trend for this year compared to last year is under the cost involved. And last year, the absentees for August cost us $30,000. This year, the absentees for teachers cost us $36,000. And same thing for the paras, where last year, sorry, wait for the system to load, it's an Apple. Last year, the paras cost us $12,000, And this year, the paras cost us $13,000 for absentees or substitutes. So the costs are going up year over year. So it is something we need to keep in mind and budget for going into the budget season this coming year. As originally, we did not budget accordingly for this year.
There's less bodies, but more.
Any questions?
Yes?
Do we look at these at all by building? Do we see problems, different problems in different buildings, or is it pretty much across the board?
We're trying to get as much information as we can get and try to make it as non-pointed as possible. There is this part of this report that shows individuals in the fact that we know that there is a particular teacher who has missed 3 Mondays and 4 Fridays so far this year, totaling 7 Monday and Fridays. We know that there's another teacher directly below them who missed 2 Mondays and 2 Fridays. So we are keeping track of individuals by that regard. We do not get to see who the individuals are, because I think that is overstepping the bounds of the Board of Ed. But is there a chart that is being kept that knows who is being out more and where problems are laying? Yes. Is that now being made very clear to HR? Yes. Is their administrators taking a look at those reports or acting on what they're seeing? That I can't tell you. But the individuals involved are being reported to. From there, that's a top-down management decision. They know who they are. And the best answer I can give without directly answering.
No, I'm just looking like, even though it's low, it still seems like a lot of people being out.
It is. When you look at the number, there's 403 teachers in total in the district, and we had 514 absences. So basically, it was the equivalent of having more than a day of teachers being out, of the entire staff. You'll find throughout the course of the year, our biggest time is usually March and May, May being the largest, March being the second largest, where last year we had 769 absences in March, and we had 729 absences in May. So it would be like having 2 full days where the entire staff is out. But again, it's simply a matter of number of staff versus number of days in a month.
I don't think it's beyond the interest, or it supersedes what the board should know as far as what the administration does when you have chronic individuals who are absent. I mean, what does the administration do when they, and we're not talking about any individual, but what is your approach to dealing with individuals that are chronic?
My own personal approach?
Well,
I mean, I have not dictated an approach. My approach is that if I'm seeing patterns, I would certainly want to have a conversation with that particular individual. I have to admit, I would be interested to see why there's a pattern. However, if we are granting sick time and people are using the sick time we give them by contract, I'm not inclined to write them up for that. And if I feel that there's an abuse, I mean, for example, if someone called in sick and comes in with a tan, I'm going to ask them about that. If someone calls in sick and they're posting on Facebook that they're at the beach, I'm going to have a conversation about that. But I'm not inclined, generally speaking, to write someone up for taking their contractually allowable time. But I will talk to them about patterns, things that seem to be untruthful. I mean, I have no problem having an honest, frank conversation with someone about that. But that's my personal, that's how I personally would handle it. I have not addressed it at a district level to say this is what must happen.
Is it either in the contract or board policy that when a teacher has an intense, short duration, chronic illness pattern, that what's the policy of the administration or the board, I don't know either, to say you've missed 2 days in a row? When did we request that this
7.
person come in with a doctor's note?
By contract, it's minimum 7 days, 7 continuous days. Then we can ask them for a doctor's note. It's in the contract.
I mean, I don't think it's acceptable, but I mean, it's in the contract, so it's just something we as a board should, you know, now that we're talking about these things.
Any other discussion? Thank you. Subcommittee participation. When we were, last year I had the luxury of participating in 2 bargaining unit negotiations. I filled in for Dan while he was out, and I co-chaired with Ella and the TEA. There was at both of those bargaining units, there was an expressed interest in the bargaining unit having the ability to put someone either at subcommittees to participate or at the full board to participate. I told them at this point it was always, you know, it's the board, anyone's welcome to come and speak. But as I am now helping with the 3rd bargaining unit's collective bargaining agreement, I'm just wondering how the board feels about having staff members participate either in a subcommittee level or a committee level. Do we want to leave it that they report to the administration and the administration brings it forward? Do we feel it's a conflict if we, would it be an undermining of administration if we had them actively involved? Would it be a good thing, bad thing? I'm just open for discussion. Yes.
I personally don't think it's undermining. I would like to see them at the subcommittee level, though. I think we could work better together and be more useful with the information they might have at the subcommittee level. I think it would be helpful to the board. I agree.
I would agree as well. They actually would have more insight of what's going on day to day, which would also help us navigate some of our own policies and update them.
So you're talking about, instead of just allowing people to come and speak in the beginning, allowing them to participate in the discussion? Is that what you're saying?
In specific, when we were in the TEA negotiations, they asked if there was any way that they could appoint or elect, or however they choose to do it, a representative to sit on the various subcommittees. As a member, they would be an ex officio member, not allowed to vote, but allowed to participate, similar to the way the mayor does. Participate and interact in the conversation, but, you know, not necessarily vote. We would still hold the vote, but it would get them more involved in the decision-making process.
Yeah, I don't see that as a problem at the subcommittee level.
I agree, I like that.
John, you have any?
I'm not sure sitting at the table is the right thing for a member, for someone who isn't a member of the board. I understand that we can invite anybody to say anything or do anything. In fact, in my subcommittee meetings, I have a public participation section, which includes the staff, the way the description is written. Without a vote, I suppose it's a harmless thing, and in fact, we do regularly at subcommittee meetings ask the teachers who happen to show up sometimes for input. So I suppose ultimately I don't have any problem with that. Maybe more reservations that have been expressed by other people, but you know, ultimately, no such luck we'd be inundated with people who want to provide useful input.
We do routinely we put Jason on the spot every year. Joanne's been on the hot seat, I see her hiding back there. You know, we tend to take administrators and just call them up to the table and say, hey. So I said, they specifically had asked, their contract just started in July, and I just wanted to bring it up and see if it's worth reaching out to them and see if they want to appoint someone, or if we want to just leave it as the public participation section of the meetings.
If we offered it to the teachers, I think we should offer it to
Would have to go to all the
all
parties.
of ours.
Yes.
We just want to point out here, just if we could, that if that is something that we want to do, and we would welcome input but we would just suggest that you might entertain the idea of having one elementary and one secondary, since the needs and the focus is so different. And rather than, if you're going to be discussing issues, how something might play out in the high school is going to be different than how it might play out in kindergarten classrooms. So just suggesting that if you're going to get that input, you might want to do that to not skew the input, that's all.
And not necessarily that it has to be a person that's appointed, just someone, you know, that's maybe interested in that particular topic or, you know, and then can report back.
I commend the unions for reaching out to want to participate, and I would welcome participation. I would offer a bit of caution on this subject, however. You have an administrative union, which is one bargaining unit. You have a teachers union, which is one bargaining unit. As you just heard senior administration say, they prefer to see that split out into different categories for secondary and elementary. That could technically be separated into 3 categories, because I don't feel that middle school faces the same challenges as the high school. They're similar, but they're not the same. But the greatest concern would be in the non-certified bargaining unit, where, as we recently found out, even though it is one group of 1579, they are a bunch of individual bargaining units. So now you're talking, okay, 2 for the teachers, 2 for the administrators, 2 for the custodial, 2 for the secretary, 2 for the cafeteria workers, 2 for the paras, 2 for the nurses. You're talking 14 people added into every single subcommittee meeting to make sure. I thought I said secretaries, didn't?
You did,
Did he?
yeah, you did.
I was going to say, I didn't think I was that far gone.
Okay.
So, you're talking 14 people, plus 3 board members, plus administrators. You're talking 20 people at a meeting to make sure that everybody has an equal voice and input. I think that's logistically a nightmare. If there's something that's going on that the unions would like to participate in a subcommittee, if they see the agenda and they would like to be part of it, I think there's no harm in them sending an email to the chair of that subcommittee saying, listen, we think we have some input for this, we'd like to join you for this particular meeting. I think that is perfectly acceptable, and I think they should be accepted at that point into the meeting for what it is they'd like to offer in, for whatever their viewpoint or expertise is. But before we start just looking at this saying, well, this is a great idea, there's only 3 groups, well, there's not really 3 groups. There's 7 groups. And then you start breaking that down further, it doesn't work. That's just logic, unfortunately.
I mean, I would think that we would have to set limits on that as far as the non-certs go. You say 2 from each union, they need to communicate with each other who that's going to be. We can't have 7 people coming from 1579. So, but I mean, I think if we did it, we would have to dictate like the numbers of how many were actually part of the committee.
But if the logic that the elementary teachers have different concerns from the secondary teachers, certainly custodians' concerns would be different from those of a secretary, a para 1, 2, 3, et cetera, et cetera.
I guess I'm looking at it more of 6 would be the maximum we could have, and let the unions work out who they think they should be at the table, keeping in mind that there's multiple subcommittees too.
I mean, it could be each bargaining unit has a bargaining committee that they, there's 403 teachers, you said? And we have 6 representatives that bargain for them. They all have to put their faith and their communication through those 6. I mean, this could be the same where you say, this is the representative from the TEA, this is the representative from 1579, and this is the representative from administration. And if that person, that's that representative, wanted to bring additional support with them for a particular topic and expertise, I guess they could, but you would have to, rely on them to put forth someone that would be responsible to gather up the data, make sure they're open and they receive the emails from everybody, and that would control the population that's at the table. Yeah.
How about just having one employee of the district, doesn't matter who the employee is, if all the employees in the entire district somehow were able to get together and designate that one employee, maybe a teacher, maybe an administrator, maybe a para, whoever it is, but they all get together, they decide who that one person, obviously it'd be probably a big task for that one person, and then that person would set up some type of ability to receive communication from whatever subgroup wanted to give some input, have a representative come before the subcommittee and relay it to that one person. That seems like it's doable. I don't know if it's doable, I'm just saying why it's just as doable as the others, Mr. Chibol's scenario, about 30
All right,
people.
so I was looking to see if there is a basis of support
For something.
that I can reach out to each of the bargaining units and see if they're still interested in, I mean, we may find out that part of 1579 has no interest in it. We could find out that the administrators union has no interest in it. I know TEA specifically asked for it. It was mumbled around the table at 1579 by a couple of the units. You know, there may not be a lot of units that want to do it, but at least I can reach out to them and find out what their interest level is and see if they want to. And we can bring it forward in November and see if it gets any further. But I didn't want to pursue it if the board was going to say, no. Thank you. Board clerk. Our board clerk has again reminded me that in the spring, he resigned. And yet, he still sits here because we haven't gotten anywhere with replacing the board clerk. There's been a few possible scenarios floating around. It does say in the board bylaws that the board clerk is appointed by the chair. I felt back when we had this discussion prior to Michael taking the job that I wanted at least the board to have input in it and see where the board wanted to go with it. At that point, we had decided on posting a job and making it a 20-hour-a-month job. We had very little participation in that. We actually had 12 or 13 applicants, but most of them read the posting as 20 hours a week. They were not interested in 5 hours a week. It just wasn't enough for them to put their time out there. They weren't going to make enough money at it. They needed a larger job. We don't necessarily have a tremendous amount of money budgeted for this line item. I believe we have exactly the stipend that goes to Michael for doing it. So does the board just want, as chair, for me to solicit members of the existing staff to see if they have interest, to post it again? There's also talk of combining it potentially with another position in Midgeon Avenue that we might need a part-time need for. We're looking at benefits, a potential part-time benefits, part-time board clerk position. But I guess I was looking for the other 9 members to say that it's okay for me to negotiate that, or if you guys, it's kind of what I wanted to ask. Yes, Dan?
My only word of caution is, obviously, if you're going to combine that with another position in the union, that now it's going to cause an impact bargain situation where the union can almost dictate how exactly that's going to occur. And particularly when it comes to evenings like this where there's no set time schedule. So that makes me extremely concerned to combine those two. There's a reason why this position was separated out to begin with.
It's always been a stipend. And if a part-time position were hired in another department, this position would still just be a stipend. You know, we talked about, as a board, making it an hourly position, and we budgeted a sum of money in last year's budget, but then it went back to a stipend position to the administrative assistant and superintendent. And that's, as it didn't work before, it's not working again, so.
Can Kelly provide someone to do this?
We can hire Kelly to provide someone to do it.
And then you just pay them the hourly rate?
Right. We could also
It might solve
That would
Dan's
far exceed
dilemma.
the budget.
What's that?
I believe that we far exceed the budget that we have for that position.
We just currently don't have a lot of money in this position. It's not a very attractive position.
Well, it was an add-on, it wasn't standalone, so
Correct.
therefore
Correct.
it's harder to separate.
But administration is shortly going to begin formatting next year's budget. And I think if we have an idea of what the board is looking for, that would help administration frame next year's budget. Do they budget in a position? Do we try to just get another stipend position to carry out the year? And then budget for an hourly, further expanded position? What we did was, as a group, we decided that when we built the job description for the board clerk as an hourly person, the board clerk was going to be responsible for all subcommittees, all subcommittee meetings. And then when we found Michael volunteered to do the position, unfortunately, with the limited time he had, that job description followed. So it's just becoming an overwhelming task for him to complete the work for the superintendent and all the subcommittees and the full board meetings so we either have to go back to, the subcommittee chair and the administrator assigned to it are responsible for the minutes and the agenda, and we keep it a smaller position to go out, that it's just the full board, which is what it always used to be, or do we want to keep it as a larger position and seek someone for it? Oh, I'm sorry.
I have found it very useful to have Michael sitting in my subcommittee meetings, but that's because Michael is Michael, perhaps. We've been spoiled the past year or so by the way the job has been done. And it is such a crucial job, I'm not sure that the chairman would want so much blood on his hands. I think he'd want to share the blame, just in case something ever went wrong. And I'm thinking an advise and consent arrangement would be a good thing. You have a candidate, you bring it before the board, will you endorse this candidate?
Hence
Just
why
for
we're
your own sake, for the chairman's own
I'm
sake.
trying to keep my fingers clean for a little while.
Definitely.
Not long, just a little. Yes, ma'am.
How much time is Michael spending on board activity a week?
We could ask Michael. We're talking about you in the third person.
Well, okay. It varies quite a bit, but for example, on a Wednesday, we have a committee meeting or a regular full board meeting. The next day is full of arranging whatever had to be arranged, writing the minutes, filing everything, making notes where necessary in terms of what was sent to the full board from a committee, and that goes in the file for the next board meeting. A lot of those kind of tasks. So it depends really on the substance of the meetings on Wednesday in that case. I would say that out of a 40-hour week, it could range between, 10 and 20 hours. There are some days, for example, where I really, sometimes the whole day, when we have times when we have a special meeting. We have a special meeting on Tuesday, we have committees on Wednesday, or maybe another special on Thursday, like we did when we had interviews. Not big minutes, but there's a lot of keeping track of everything. And so one whole day might be just preparing minutes, filing the paperwork and everything else that goes, the material that goes with the meeting. And a lot of work has gone into trying to better organize the electronic files and how they're being kept. Also to start creating paper files as a redundancy with the committees, which hasn't been done before. Creating a kind of style for everything for consistency, including the language for the minutes, the language for the agenda, and so on, which is kind of an ongoing plan. There are other things, well, for example, in the none of the committee minutes are on paper. All of the regular board meetings, special and expulsion and regular meetings are all in the books of Merlin that are kept in the safe, but not for committees. And so I've started going forward, keeping that, but a project of going back to maybe, as far as anyone thinks would be necessary, to maybe keep an archive of that. Also, for example, the book, a handbook for the board. I had started one back a while ago, just kind of mocked something up. Jessica actually helped look through it a little bit. But that's just something that there's just no time to really put my back into.
How much time do you think you spend doing things for, maybe not necessarily committee-related, but at the direction of any board members?
Aside from committee preparation for committee meetings, or special data collections that were requested during a committee meeting, there aren't a lot of member requests, except as they apply to an upcoming meeting, I think. Yeah, I mean, I don't get a lot of people just saying, hey, would you do this for me? Although there are times I think that could be appropriate to a board clerk, something that's related to the board business that might need to be done. But I wouldn't say there's a lot of requests. That's not much of the time, it's more the maintenance.
So it's about 30 hours a week. You said between 20 and 40, so I average.
No, I said 20 and 10.
Oh, I
20 and 10. I'm on an easy week with for example, some committee chairs have lovely short meetings as a rule. Sometimes a 20-minute meeting, it doesn't require a lot of work. But sometimes there are very serious meetings, and that's why I tape them. I tape them so that I can go back and catch the details that are necessary. And that's time consuming, to listen through, to find the spot. Sometimes to, like when we voted here that night, to try and, wait, who said? You could, it could be time consuming, so it varies a lot. But that kind of accuracy, I think, is important. And I think keeping everything very clean and accurate is important. So that takes time.
And I think we have to look at that, because if we only have, what I don't want us to end up happening is having us hire someone and then blowing our budget if we only have 5 hours a week scheduled, and we know it's triple that.